I want to ask the Minister if he will confirm the site, the size of the site which has been acquired for the Edmund Rice College at a site on the Phoenix Park Racecourse, adjacent to one of the local GAA clubs, St Bridget's GAA Club, and if the Minister can confirm when work is likely to commence on the site. Has it been formally acquired, and will there be an agreement with St Bridget's GAA Club to take up the very kind offer by the club that they would be willing to share sporting facilities and perhaps other facilities with the school on the site at the Phoenix Park Racecourse?
Minister.
Thank you, Kim Corley, and thanks for the question. Deputy, as the Deputy will be aware, a building project to deliver permanent accommodation for Edmund Rice College, Carpenterstown, Castleknock is included in my department's 6-year construction programme and will be delivered under my department's 2020 Design and Build programme. It is intended to provide this new school building on a 6-acre site at the former Phoenix Park Racecourse at Castleknock. Work on completing the transfer of the site into my ownership is currently underway. A project brief in respect of this school has now been finalised, and a tender competition is already in progress to appoint the project management team for the 2020 and 2021 Design and Build programme, of which this project forms a part. This tender competition is expected to be completed by March. When appointed, the project manager will lodge an application for planning permission and progress the project through the relevant stages of architectural planning, tender and construction. I can assure the Deputy that my department is working to deliver the school's permanent accommodation at the earliest possible date. In the interim, since September 2018, the school has been based at the former Institute of Horology, property Mill Road, Blanchardstown, Dublin 15, on a temporary basis.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy.
The news that the site is, as we've known for some time, been finally confirmed, and that the acquisition of the site is underway, is something that residents and parents in the area will welcome, because, to be honest, this year, Minister, and last year, there's been a huge amount of concern that we have not seen in Dublin 15, in Castleknock, in the areas around Ongar. Massive concern of the lack of school places at second level. I know you're just recently there, but since this government came in, we have gone back to school crisis numbers that we just have not seen for more than 7 years. So there's a lot of ground to be made up. I want to ask you, in relation to your reference there to a design and build contract, you came in here and we had a discussion about what the unfortunate events which happened further up at Tyrrellstown, and certainly in the analysis that's been offered to me by various people in building and construction, design and build is not actually the best model, because it means perhaps that the architects and the building company who are going to construct are actually one and the same, and it means the necessary oversight that should be present may not be present. So I would just like to ask you, Minister, what steps are you taking to ensure that the quality of this build and the quality of the design, so that the unfortunate happenings in Tyrrellstown will not happen again? What steps have you taken on that?
Just to go back, in your previous contribution, you were asking about St Bridget's GAA Club. I meant to just reference that. With regard to playing pitches, in line with all new schools will have a high standard of sports facilities on site. Furthermore, it is intended that a public playing pitch will form part of the wider development in the area. The proposed school site is adjacent to St Bridget's GAA Club. However, any access by a school to off-site facilities is typically by local arrangement. So I'm sure between the school and the GAA Club, that's a relationship that we'll have, that conversation will go on between them. But just to let you know that the new school, there will be there will be plenty sports pitches. With regard to your question around the population explosion and trying to deal with it, we are managing that, and that's why we introduced the GIS system to identify 42 new schools where there will be pressures, and up to 40% of additional accommodation will be accommodated by existing schools as well. So there's a very much a forward planning emphasis within the department to ensure that there happens. And lastly, your question around what can we do to ensure that we don't make the mistakes of the past in terms of not having proper, I suppose, insight into what was going on a building site. What we have done in relation to that is we now have a clerk of works on every one of these sites.
All right,
and that will continue, and that's important that happens. But ultimately, and it's a question that is faced by everybody who builds, whether it's in the private sector or the public sector. Ultimately, the designers, the contractors have full responsibility in terms of ensuring that the buildings that they build are safe and fit for purpose.
Deputy Burton.
Could you clarify, you described it as a design and a build contract, and what all of the experts told us after what we found out in respect of Tyrrellstown was that it was much better if there was an independent, if you like, architect and design area, and then the contractor, as it were, was separate. When you had them, as you had in the Western building systems, wrapped up together, that seemed to be a very high risk in terms of the enormous difficulties and the huge work and cost that your department has incurred. So I'd like to know, how is this different from what happened then? Because you're using the same description, I have to say. In relation to St. Bridget's, I'm glad to hear that the department has a very positive attitude to cooperation between St. Bridget's and the Edmund Rice College. But the 6 acres... Yeah, sorry, this is what I wanted to ask you. Yeah, the 6-acre site, Minister, is actually a very small site. So are you saying that the school per the school will have to enter into an entirely separate agreement with the GAA? Or are you expecting, does the department expect to, for instance, fund any costs that might arise as a consequence of the school being able to avail of what's a fabulous local GAA club, and you know they're being very generous in offering this.
Right, thank you,
but at
Deputy.
the same time, I don't think anybody would like to see them severely out of pocket. As a consequence, there may be costs to it.
Okay, Minister, if you could conclude on this matter, please.
The only thing I said in relation to St. Bridget's is that the new site is adjacent to it, and like every local parish or local community, there's competent people in these organisations that will talk to each other, and if there's any issues that need to be resolved, no doubt they will overcome them. Second thing, in relation to the design, build, operate. The design, build, operate builds good schools if they're built in the right way. It's happening throughout the Department of Housing as well, different types of rapid build programmes, and they do work if they're built and done in the proper fashion. So what we've done since the introduction of the new legislation, building control legislation, is to have a clerk of work on every site, and we'll be ensuring when this school starts, from the day the first sod is turned, we'll ensure that there will be a clerk of works on that site.
Thank you, Minister.